people might be surprised there's so much overlap in imagination, right? I think maybe a lot of people have the misconception that science is this sort of fixed thing, but it requires so much sort of ingenuity of the mind to discern where to look, how things might fit together across disciplines.
Welcome to Next in Space here at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. For this new speaker series, we bring industry leaders and futurists together with JPL trailblazers to convene bold conversations about the future of space exploration. And I am so excited about our chat today. Krys, Ethan, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah. Ethan, we'd like to get to know you a little bit, and I want to start by talking about legacies.
Yeah.
You come from an acting legacy. Your grandfather was, of course, the legendary Gregory Peck.
That's true.
And my researchers didn't fail me. And you won the role of Spock on a show with a now 60-year legacy.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background? Was your grandfather's work an influence on a young Ethan? How old were you when you realized who he was to the world?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. The older I get, the sort of stranger it becomes that I'm connected to this legacy.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm such a novel data point in many ways, to have been born in Los Angeles, to have been born into this family. And I think as I said, as I get older, it becomes kind of more and more amazing to me, because when you're young, you just accept what is for what it is, and you don't really have any context. And it's funny, actually, just this past weekend, I presented one of his films at the TCM Film Festival, Arabesque, from 1966, which he did with Sophia Loren. And it's the first time I've done anything like that. And I'm in awe of him and what he accomplished, and to be in some way connected to that is just so sort of strange and amazing to me.
How old were you when you realized who he was?
It's still dawning on me, and I'm 40. I'm 40 now. But when I was a little boy, he was just grandpa.
Right.
And he was, I guess he would have been in his 70s when I was a little boy. And he was a gray-haired, mustached man with a really rumbling, wonderful voice and cashmere sweaters, and as grandpas tend to wear. And maybe it was, I think maybe into my early 20s when I started to really become more acquainted with the sort of novelty of it. And to be really confronted with, how do I relate to this publicly, because I'm going to be asked about it, and I'm going into the same profession. So it's been a really interesting journey.
How old were you when you decided to become a professional actor?
Okay, so that's interesting. I've been acting since I was about 6, and probably I decided to become a professional actor when I was 30. I'll explain. I'm not sure that I was doing it for me for many years, and it was around 30 that I nearly quit acting, because I didn't have agency in the way that I needed to do it, because it really requires a lot of delusion and determination. But yeah, I nearly quit, and there was about a year where I thought, maybe I'm not an actor, maybe, I don't know, I was going to go into I think if I weren't an actor, I'd be a therapist or a psychologist. And I remember I had a conversation with a buddy at like a Buffalo Wild Wings, and I was like, dude, I don't know if I should be doing this. Maybe I'll get into and he was like, dude, just try a little bit longer. And so I committed myself to one more pilot season, as they're called, which we used to have, which we don't really have anymore in the industry, which is where the studios sort of put together some test episodes for new shows. Maybe I'm explaining something you already know. And then the episodes get made, and from those episodes they choose what turns into a series. And so, yeah, it was probably around 30 that I recommitted myself. And 6 months later, I was cast as Spock.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did that come about, the Spock and Star Trek, for you?
It was an audition like kind of any other audition. I got an email from my manager with some scenes that were disguised, of course. And it was for Tom the Andorian. I knew that it was for Star Trek, but I didn't know which role it was. And the scenes were with Michael Burnham, a character from Star Trek Discovery, so beautifully portrayed by Sonequa Martin Green. And so I did this initial tape, which depicted this Andorian. I'm not sure if I'm speaking a foreign language. Some people watch Star Trek here, yeah?
There are people nodding in the audience. I'm pretty sure that you're in good company here.
Yeah, I figured as much. But so yeah, Andorians are a race in the show Star Trek. And he's kind of having this inner reverie in this cave, and Michael Burnham comes to retrieve him as though he'd been sort of lost, or lost himself. And I had a callback, and then I had a third callback, and for that third callback, and this is taking place over the course of about 6 weeks, and for that third callback, they sent me a new set of scenes. And from those scenes, I could sort of understand that it was for the role of Spock, and I was just totally flabbergasted. I remember calling my father and saying, I think this is for Spock. And he was like, haha, like father of Spock, like trying on what it would feel like to be father of Spock, which of course he now is, I guess, to some degree. And yeah, so I went and did that final audition, and I got a text message from one of our amazing casting directors, Orly Sidowitz, which was welcome aboard the Enterprise, Mr. Spock.
Wow.
And I was just, I was around the corner from my apartment, and I just sat down and I shed some tears of joy. Like, it was just such an extraordinary moment and such an extraordinary win. It's the kind of thing as an actor you dream of, to be a part of a franchise like this, to be a part of not just an intellectual property, but a world of ideas such as Star Trek, because they are so special. And so not just to be working, but to be propagating these sort of amazing ideals and this possibility for us for the future.
Oh, I love that. That's going to be a theme, I think, today. Yes, very good. Now, Krys, you manage the human-centered design team. For those of us who don't know, myself included, I am not an engineer or a scientist, famously. Can you please tell us what the heck a human-centered designer actually does?
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to use a Star Trek analogy because that helps, sure. Right?
It's appropriate.
Yeah. So here at NASA JPL, we have operations teams who are running our missions. And we have development teams who are developing our missions, right? They are figuring out what's the next amazing thing we're going to do. And you can think of them as the crew of the Starship Enterprise. And the people who are doing operations on Perseverance, on Curiosity, on Europa Clipper every day, these people are the bridge crew of the Starship Enterprise. And then we would also design all of the displays and the software that people use to control the Enterprise. And then also, we would design who gets to be on the bridge, who sits next to who, and how they interact. And we do all this by using the research methods of psychology and the principles of design and art to understand the needs of the people that are going to be operating these amazing, complex missions that are like nothing we have ever done before. And then predict what they're going to need 25 years from now, because often we're doing it well in advance. And then design solutions for them that are intuitive, that are easy to use, that allow us to get the most science for the taxpayer's buck.
I have this question later, but you just touched on it. How do you design for the future operators, the future folks, the 25 years, 40 years in advance? How does that come into play? Because technology, especially now, is changing so very rapidly.
Yeah, so I will avoid getting too technical, but I'll stay kind of at a high level. One of the things that we do is we have invented a research method here at JPL called design simulations. And you can think of this as like a role-playing game where my team and I create a future environment. We imagine just crazy software that you could be using, crazy but realistic. And we design processes that are similar to what you would be doing for real when you do the mission. And then we ask people to role play that thing that they're going to do. And it causes them to react in very realistic ways, which we can then observe. And we can predict for Okay, so we don't know what the technology will be, but we know that they are going to need this piece of information at this time and not these 5 other pieces of information. Because if you give everybody every bit of information and it's got the same priority and it's got the same, it's just this like shower coming at you. And most of the time people are looking for a single drop. So we try to get to what is that single drop they're going to need. In
some ways, you're both students of human nature on some level. Is that a little?
I think so.
Is that too lofty? Do you think?
No, I mean, I'm honored to be, considered to have any sort of overlap with what you do. It sounds really impressive.
It is no secret that Star Trek has been an inspiration for a lot of the folks in this room and also online. It's a beautiful synchronicity that Star Trek celebrates its 60th anniversary this year, the same year that JPL celebrates. We're celebrating our 90th anniversary. A massive number of JPLers cite Star Trek and Spock specifically as their original inspiration for getting into STEM. I know you do, Krys. We're going to get to that. It's a true feedback loop of inspiration. Ethan, you play Spock on Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. What is the weight? You touched on this a little bit, but what does the weight of that feel like? Knowing your portrayal is possibly recruiting aerospace engineers and scientists of the 2030s, 2040s, and beyond.
Yeah, well, fortunately, I didn't really think of that before because it would have been very frightening. As much as possible, when I got the role and as I was sort of preparing for it and throughout my tenure as the character, we've actually wrapped the entire series in December. So we finished up season 5.
So how does it end?
Well, I'll tell you. No, I won't. Hey, Trevor, I know you're here, Trevor. He's my boss, one of my bosses. I think it was so important not to really consider the weight of it, because I think if you're working under pressure or with too many expectations, you make bad decisions. You make decisions that are authentic to who you are. And so as much as possible, I tried to show up on the day and have an experience as the character in those circumstances and to be present. And that proved to be a very difficult task. And I mean, to understand that it may inspire, if it inspired one person to pursue the dream of becoming an aerospace engineer that ended up here, that would be really thrilling. So just to be a part of the legacy is really special. I really credit the original guys with probably a lot of you being here.
I mean, let's talk about the original guys, because I know that, Krys, you and I both grew up in a Star Trek, the original series household. My mother had a life-size Captain Kirk she got one Christmas, which was legitimately terrifying for a young me because it was just lurking in the corner. But Krys, tell us how Star Trek inspired a young Krys Blackwood, and how does it continue to do so?
Yeah, so my very first memory of my life is of being in Germany. I'm an Army brat, and in the Augsburg base, my family was the only ones who had a TV. So Star Trek night was a party at my house.
Wow.
And so we had one long couch, and everybody would sit on it, and they would kind of pass, 2-3-year-old little me from lap to lap, and I loved it because I had all the attention. I was the only kid, and I was watching Star Trek, and I didn't understand a word they said because I don't speak German, but I loved the whole idea of going into space. And as I started to grow, of course I wanted to be an astronaut, but nobody's gonna let me do that because I'm not qualified. But as I finally got to the point where I could think about Star Trek as a concept, I realized that this was a world I wanted to live in, because Earth doesn't have borders in Star Trek, right? Science is king in Star Trek. They have whole missions that are just science missions, and that really drove my career.
That inspiration, Star Trek executive producer and Ethan Peck superfan, we checked, Trevor Roth, who's here today, and CEO of Roddenberry Entertainment, Rod Roddenberry, often discuss this enduring legacy of the show. We live in a world that utilizes technology that can easily be traced conceptually at least, back to Star Trek. Communicators become cell phones, tricorders become MRIs and CT scans, that sort of thing. From both of your perspectives, one in Hollywood, one at NASA, what makes a sci-fi franchise endure long enough to actually see its fictional technology become reality?
Ethan, you go first.
Oh gosh. Well, something just a little bit of an old thought. It's so amazing the impact that Star Trek had on someone like you, on maybe many of you, that really romanticizes this journey into space, because it's so dangerous.
It's so dangerous.
Like it really makes it this beautiful thing, this aspirational thing that, like, so many kids want to be an astronaut, and when you really think about what those first astronauts did, it's psychotic. Like, I mean, the strength of mind you must have had to do that, to execute those missions in space, it just blows me away. But there is something, I'm going to bring up the phrase final frontier. There is something final frontier about Star Trek, of course, and if we can make that something sort of welcoming, that's really important and really useful. Because as I said, it is incredibly dangerous, and I think a lot of people sort of react to the unknown with so much fear, and in a very human way, with a lot of violence sometimes. And so I think if we can make the unknown this sort of interesting and romantic and alluring place, I think that's something that Star Trek has done so beautifully and so well. And I'm not sure what else can do that. In terms of propaganda or education, there's something so wonderful about these creatures from different worlds participating together, acting together to sort of uncover this otherness out there, and then in ourselves with the way they interact and communicate. And I think it's such a human sort of solution to work together, to be together, to be involved with one another, to search. And I think the show does such an incredible job of that, or the concept does such an incredible job of that. So, I mean, to me, that's one of the great reasons that it's got such lasting power.
Absolutely. Krys, what are your thoughts?
I agree with everything Ethan said.
Sure.
Plus, I think there's this aspect that is the same thing that makes this place great. And that's the willingness to be very audacious with your dreaming. The willingness to say, oh, it's never been done before, it probably can't be done, but we're going to pretend it has been done. And what would life be like then? And I think that very thing makes science fiction last, and it also is what inspires us, right? Nobody thought we could fly a helicopter on Mars, and yet Ingenuity flew 72 times, I think it is.
Yes.
Somebody
Yep.
nod?
Yep.
Okay, yay. I think there's this partnership between storytelling and between science and engineering that each of us are pushing the other, right?
And I'd love to add to that, if I could, or draw another comparison, is that the imagination involved in each of our industries, people might be surprised there's so much overlap in imagination. Right? I think maybe a lot of people have the misconception that science is this sort of fixed thing, but it requires so much sort of ingenuity of the mind to discern where to look, how things might fit together across disciplines. And of course, in my work, the imagination is very obvious, right? So that's something that I think is delightful.
Agreed.
That's beautiful. Let's talk about that a little bit. Science fiction often paints dark dystopias. Star Trek is famously utopian. You touched on this a little bit. We've all just witnessed the Artemis II mission, which of course brought humans farther from the Earth than ever before, and included the first woman, the first person of color, the first non-American to travel as far as the moon. This is the promise that Star Trek, the original series, offered: diversity and exploration, joining together for the pursuit of scientific knowledge. Incredible. David C. also asked this question from JPL. What do you both think is the key to ensuring our actual future in space looks more like the United Federation of Planets and less like, say, the Borg?
I mean, there's kind of a nice efficiency to the Borg, but I can understand the comparison.
They get stuff done.
They
You
get
can't
stuff
argue
done.
with it.
I mean, this is probably a better question for you, but I mean, all I would say is like lots of money and the right education, you know, to ensure that people know that this is a possibility to do something like this, and the importance of sort of understanding what we're doing here, right? I mean, I think that's one of the primary reasons we look out there and look in here.
Ethan, you play the ultimate sci-fi science officer. Krys, you help actually design actual spacecraft interfaces. When you look at each other's worlds, what is the one thing of which you are most jealous?
Oh, I have a good answer for this.
Okay.
Can I go?
Please.
So, Ethan, what I'm jealous of, because I wouldn't trade these people and this work for anything, but what I am so jealous of is you have this platform and this ability to do good for so many people. I am never going to have the reach you have. And I think that you can inspire so many, and you can uplift people, and you can amplify messages that do so much good in the world. And I feel like it's in good hands with you. I feel like you are that kind of person.
Thanks.
No pressure.
I'm really touched. What was the question? I've like already forgotten. I'm so sort of flattered.
What is the one thing of which you're most jealous of Krys's work?
I mean that maybe one day you'll create a replicator. We know what that is, right? Yeah. Some of us. Well, on the Enterprise, we've got a device that you can just ask for whatever you'd like to eat, and it just makes it for you out of molecules, right? It's like a 3D printer for using different molecules. Maybe one day you'll be working on something like that.
Oh man, I would love to. Get chopping, you guys.
But also, I've been thinking a lot about the term interpretation with regards to what you're doing. And you get to really explore the minds of these scientists that you're working with and interpret what they need, what they're looking for, help them understand what they're looking for. Accurate to say?
I can try, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm actually really curious to know when you're designing or architecting sort of a new, a tangible place to interact with the information, are you focused on the science or are you focused on the scientist?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Ooh. So I'm aware that the North Star of what we're doing is always the science. But for me, the scientists are my heroes. All of the scientists here, all of the scientists all over the world are the people I admire most in the whole world.
Me too.
So I think even though maybe I should be focused just on the science, I am focused on empowering the scientists to do what they do so incredibly well.
Yeah.
I'm going to change lanes here a little bit. We asked our guests that if they'd like to bring in an object that inspires them or speaks to their work or the future of space exploration, we'd love to see it. And I see you both brought some objects on our beautiful table here. Who'd like to go first?
Why don't I go first? Because Ethan's is better.
I don't know about that.
We'll just build up to it.
I don't know about that. Yours looks, I'm very curious about what you brought.
So this book was published in 1960. That's actually before I was born, if you can believe it. But I have had it my entire life. I'm probably the reason it's so ratty, because I have read this book over and over.
Sorry, for those in the back row, will you just say the title?
Yeah, it's called Space Age Atlas. And it was published 1 year after we finally broke Earth's gravity, right? So this is an old frickin' book. I don't know if I can say that, sorry. But these are the pages. This is the moon, and it's this incredible spread of the moon. These are the pages where, as a little kid, I would spend hours just poring over every single detail. And we have the solar system here. And yes, Pluto's still a planet in this one because it's that old. But I was so enchanted by them. It was all about the space for me. And I would just, like starting at 3 years old when I could read, I would read every word over and over and over again, trying to memorize it and trying to understand what it would be like to live out there and what each of the planets was like. So this book, I still have it a few years later, and it's a great treasure to me.
I love the image of a young Krys Blackwood with a shock of blue hair, watching Star Trek and then going to your book. That's beautiful.
Yeah, they must really intermingle in your mind, the sort of contents of this book and Star Trek.
Because they were out there, and I wanted to be out there with them.
I love that.
Now, Ethan, you have a little bauble on the table you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I brought my credentials. This is the reason I'm here, I suppose. This is my probably the last on-camera Delta badge that I wore in Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And it's very special to me and dear to me. And this, I think for so many people, represents sort of what we're trying to, I think, understand and digest with this conversation. It's a symbol of hope, of humanity, and for me of you know, something more superficial, success, you know, which is kind of just wonderful that I got to be a part of this. And I'm very proud to have worn it. Oh, yes, please.
Thank you.
Please.
I can't believe you're giving me this. It's heavy. It's actual metal.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can see it's 3D printed on the back. And
oh, my goodness. That's amazing. That's amazing. I noticed, Krys, you have an earlier version of one. Is that correct?
Yes, so I have
series.
the one from the Discovery series, which you showed up on.
Yeah.
But this one, this is so elegant.
They're beautiful.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about sort of show and tell objects, how about a round of applause for this amazing set they have created? The design and production teams really went all out, and all of these objects are curated from JPL's incredible archive team and our makerspace. And Ethan, our makerspace is a collaborative workspace here at JPL for engineers to brainstorm, prototype, and test hardware designs early in development before they ever make it implemented on spacecraft. So, just incredible. I wanted to talk about other than the wonderful animated series Lower Decks, Star Trek tends to focus heavily on the bridge crew. But for JPL and the Federation, missions are powered by thousands of unsung engineers, scientists, designers, archivists, storytellers, artists, communicators, and support staff that keep the place running. How can popular media better represent the massive, unglamorous, collaborative effort it actually takes to explore space?
You got ideas, or is this one for me?
I'm gonna let you start, and then I'll follow on by saying you're right about everything.
That's a pretty interesting tactic. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that I'm an authority, the type of authority for this question. But, you know, what comes to mind is a film like The Right Stuff. Probably because I think at least in my memory of it, and my experience of it, it really captures the scope and scale of the personnel involved with achieving something, you know, you could explain in a sentence, not land on the moon. You know, that's a huge undertaking. It's such a quick, brief few words that requires thousands of hours, many years, thousands of people. And I would argue that Lower Decks does a decent job, although it might be a little too tongue-in-cheek to really be educating in that way. But maybe on the next Star Trek show, Trevor, you know, we could explore the Lower Decks a little bit. I don't know, you know, more episodically.
The Lower Decks talk show host. An astronaut, Krys, an astronaut or mission controller receives thousands of data points a second. How do you design that interface? You mentioned that shower analogy that filters out the noise so they can make split-second, potentially life-saving decisions or reduce the amount of needed analysis.
Yeah, I mean, my team and I do this every single day. One of the things that we do is we apply these principles used in design, and they're used in every kind of design, from architecture to cartography to any kind of design you can imagine. They're called Gestalt principles. And we apply these principles. They use the use of color, the use of proximity, understanding what is important and what needs to shout, what should be quiet. We apply all of these principles to a user interface, and actually in Star Trek, in the Next Generation, they invented a new type of display that I think is called LCARs. Am I right about that? I'm looking for a nod. Yes, great. And these actually do a really good job of it. They have what's called encapsulation, so things that are related are put together. They have prioritization of data. They put the most important data right in the center of the screen. I mean, it's not perfect because Spock shouldn't have to stand up to look in his little thingy, but the Star Trek UIs are really good.
If you could consult on the Strange New Worlds bridge, what design element, like what JPL design philosophy would you implement?
There would be no more away team missions. We would send robots instead. That's
just, I know.
Also, we'd be moving the view scope right next to where Spock sits, so I don't have to stand up.
Right, and it would be angled so that you can just like lean and look.
Just to be clear for the YouTube audience, at Jet Propulsion Laboratory, we make robots and we send them into space, which is why that big round of applause happened when you said that. No away. There would be a slightly different show. No away.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't be as interesting, but everybody would be safe.
There you go.
Nobody would ever die.
This is a question I've been dying to ask you both. From the early days of JPL, we have a what-it-takes mentality to getting our missions done successfully. All of NASA's triumphs are achieved through trial and error, with inevitable failures along the way. I was wondering if you would both share a moment of perceived failure that led to something profound or to an ultimate success in your life or work. You mentioned almost giving up acting.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a part of it. And I think that was sort of an expression of a mentality or a feeling that I had at that time that I still struggle with now, which is maybe related or connected to perfectionism. And when I was starting out on Star Trek Discovery, and it lasted into Strange New Worlds, was a really severe case of imposter syndrome and of, am I doing this right? Is this good enough? Right? We talked about the weight of portraying the character of Spock because of his importance to the audience, to the scientific community, to the world in many ways. And I would come home from set and just be like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I did that well enough. I mean, even just remembering the lines was a big struggle for me. Until the very last day, people asked me does the technobabble get easier? And I was like, no, it's hard every time, all the way up until the end. It's kind of amazing. And so that relationship with perceived failure really stayed with me. And I discovered that I think, Spock deals with that. Yeah. He's this person of two worlds, and to be half human, right? On Vulcan, emotion is so shameful, and to be human is to be emotional, if we're to reduce it. And so he's kind of always, he is a state of failure just because he's of these two worlds. And I thought, well, that's really Spockian to sort of have this feeling of failing all the time because he's never good enough. And sort of the anxiety that came from that sort of perceived daily failure sort of faded away because I thought, well, Spock wouldn't focus on that. He would focus on what's working. You know, the ability to sort of focus on his mind on success, whether it's 2% or 60%.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really important lesson I've taken away from playing the character.
And you feel
actually.
like that's influenced your life?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, as mentioned, I think I still struggle with, am I doing well enough, you know?
Yeah, sure.
But that's something that I had to really hammer into my mind and into my behavior, because I wasn't going to survive if I was worried about failing all the time, because the day moves too quickly. I've got too much sort of dialogue and information to sort of uptake and deliver. And yeah, that was probably the biggest and most profound lesson I took from my involvement with this character.
Amazing. Krys, failures.
It's really funny because I was actually thinking about asking you if you had ever experienced imposter syndrome, and then you just shared. So
Yes.
Thank you. That's really amazing.
Yeah, sure.
And it's, as someone who also experiences it all the time, because look at this amazing crowd of people that I get to work with, that I don't know that I'm worthy of being here with them. It's really comforting to know that someone even like you also experiences it. So thank you.
Yeah, of
That's
course.
awesome.
I mean, yeah, of course you should be here. You're amazing.
I'll say it again. So when the dot-com bubble burst, I got laid off from the company where I thought I was going to become a millionaire when the IPO happened. And I had a very small daughter. She was 4, and I was a single mom. And it took me at that time 6 months to find another job. And I struggled so much because I was getting beat out by people who had greater educations than me for jobs that wouldn't even pay my rent. There was nothing. The economy was terrible at the time. And I thought for a while that I too might not be in the right profession, and I questioned whether I had chosen the right path. And I started doing, I had a massage license. It's no longer valid, but I started doing massage, and I had a couple really bad experiences with clients, and I decided I was never going to do that again. I was going to focus, whatever I had to do, I was going back to tech. And that very day, I got a call from a job offer, and started working in this profession again, and found the joy of helping other people realize their dreams, and knew I would never even consider another path again. And all of that, that path, if I had stayed where I was, if I hadn't gotten laid off, I would never have found my way here, because the job that called me was enterprise software. I'd never done enterprise software before. And it led me down the path that led directly to this place.
Incredible. We have some incoming transmissions. We asked our JPLers to send in some questions. Lena H. asks, Ethan, has working on or with futuristic settings and tools prompted any new opinions about the functionality of things we use in the present?
Whoa.
Right?
You'd think that someone who's pretending to be a hyper-brilliant scientist would be thinking about instrumentation more often on the set. But I'm so preoccupied with his feelings that I honestly don't notice too much what we're working with. But could we start teleporting ASAP? Because that's a really nice thing.
I mean, wouldn't that be lovely?
Yeah, that'd be great.
You could live anywhere. Nikki W. asks, when you are acting on the Strange New World set, how much backstory do you give to the consoles you are operating? Do you invent a personal logic for the interface? I know you're interested in this. Or is it purely choreography? Does everyone who interacts with the consoles share the same choreography?
Okay, so this is such a funny aspect of what I've had to do on the show. I remember the first time I had to on the set. And I was with Anthony Rapp, and I was in a spacesuit, and I was like, dude, what do you do? He was like, make it up. And I was like, what? I can't, I mean, there's got to be a logic to this, and there's really not.
That was a very Spock answer, by the way.
And so, I mean, over the years, every time I sit down at that console, because I spend so much time looking at it and interacting with it, and I do have sort of some idea. First of all, I'm like, why do I need to be touching buttons so often? Like, shouldn't this be better designed? Like, I should just touch that and it takes me straight to where I need to be, and then I just watch the information?
Krys
or why
is nodding, yes.
Or why isn't the computer watching the information and I'm ready to talk to the captain? You know, we shouldn't probably dig too deep into that because I don't want to ruin the illusion. But in my mind, yeah, there was like this button takes me to this archive of information, or this is going to deliver this to this part of the ship. And so there was sort of like a vague understanding of like which buttons sort of access which parts of the ship's memory, or communicated with different parts of the ship, or for my own personal records. And there was like one button that I was like, this is the archive button. Like, this new data's come in and this is going to go to, this is important. I mean, it's like so silly to talk about this out loud because it's something I've never really spoken about out loud. And I'm really curious to know what some of the others on the ship think about when they're touching the buttons, because it's important not to just be doing nothing.
Yeah.
You've got to be doing something. And I'm really wondering what they do now.
I didn't mention this earlier, but the Roddenberry Entertainment Group lent us probably, this 3D chess board, yes?
Yep.
I know. I'm touching it. Do you know how to play? Because Spock plays it a lot.
I did at one point, but because the game is derived from the object wasn't designed for a sort of system of playing, so it's a little stilted. It doesn't play very well, but you can like capture it right on multiple levels. Yeah, don't read too much about it because it might disappoint you.
Okay. We just have time for a couple more questions. We are seeing artificial intelligence take massive leaps right now. In Star Trek, we have the ship's computer, which is ubiquitous, but largely a tool. How do you both view the ideal partnership between human operators and AI as we push farther into the solar system?
So I'm in the AI and data science section here at JPL. Woot woot, shout out. And I think we are thinking about this a lot. AI is absolutely for augmenting human capability. In the future, I think humans and AI will be working hand in hand. This is a specialty of my team. It's called human autonomy teaming. And the AI partners, man, I would just love to get to general artificial intelligence, but the AI partners will do the things that are too dangerous for people. They will process massive amounts of data and give information to people so that people can use their intuition, their creativity, and their brilliance to do things that they couldn't do before. And this is my hope. This is what my section is trying to make a reality. And yeah.
Do you think that sort of sidekick or augmentation will ever have the sort of sensitivity of someone like you who's really able to kind of look at some information, make an interpretation, and there's, you know, obviously a huge human element to what you do. Do you think that ever can be replicated?
I think some bits of it can be replicated. Some of our behavior is deterministic, right? It's an algorithm. If you kick me, I'm going to say ow, so please don't kick me, right? But there are other things that we don't understand consciousness. We don't understand creativity. And there are those things that I think just until we understand it, cannot be replicated. We can't write an algorithm. We can write an algorithm that mimics it, and sometimes quite convincingly. But I don't know if we'll ever truly recreate it.
I have a sort of last question for you both. In one sentence, what does the phrase, the final frontier, mean to you in the year 2026? And that's our show.
Would you like to
You
start?
first.
For me, inner space.
What do you mean by that?
The understanding of ourselves, oneself, that feels really important. And to me, I think more than ever, I think it's important to believe that the future is human. So those sort of ideas come up for me.
Yes, Krys?
Yes, and consciousness. I think that we need to explore consciousness in order to make amazing AI, in order to help people travel to the stars. Only by understanding what is in our minds and how it works and what a mind is, can we get all the way there? And I say this as a person with psychology degrees, so I realize I'm typecasting myself, but I truly believe that it is, the inner space is the path to the outer space.
That's beautiful. We have one last ask of you, Ethan. We are asking our guests for a final thought, a message of encouragement to a future generation of explorers. You can offer it to the live audience here. You can look straight down the camera lens if you prefer, if that's more comfortable. Send your postcard to the future.
Oh my gosh. Be curious about yourself, about one another, and make time for those answers that may come from those places.
That's a great way to end. Krys, Ethan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely,
for having me.
absolutely.
Thanks so much for speaking with me.
And for all of you watching, until next time, stay curious, be kind, and dare mighty things.